One of the goals is to eradicate poverty by 2030. And one way that I see poverty can be eradicated on the African continent is by promoting entrepreneurship.
Welcome to Harare, Zimbabwe. This is a country that is teeming with all kinds of wildlife, but what you might not know is that this is actually a thriving tech hub as well. And I'm about to introduce you to someone who knows that better than most. My guest today is a sustainable business entrepreneur helping pre-seed startups here in Africa get funding on the world market. Please meet Geraldine Mupandanyama.
So this neighborhood is called Greystone Park. This is one of the high-end neighborhoods where the middle to upper class income earners would stay. I'm sure you've noticed that there are just trees everywhere where we are driving. I love how green Harare is.
Have you lived in Harare all your life?
Yes, I have. I've lived in Harare in different parts. I love it. Love it. There's no place like Harare.
Can you talk to me about the gap between what foreigners think of when they think Zimbabwe versus the reality?
A few years ago, I attended an online webinar. The foreigner gave an interesting example where he said, you know, it's like buying a Volvo and sending it to Africa. They've got no roads there.
And you were on this call.
And I was on this call and I was thinking, oh, okay. If you came to Harare and you counted the number of Volvos we have on our roads, you'd be shocked. So, yeah, they may think that we are still living in the Stone Age. It's really not like that.
Maybe to this day he still believes it.
Can you imagine if that particular gentleman was looking for remote workers and he came across an application from someone who's based in Africa? You automatically turn them down. There are people that miss out on opportunities for them to succeed or to tap into what the rest of the world is experiencing just because the person on the other side doesn't know the facts.
Yeah, that's a big part of why I'm doing this. I want to speak to the misguided perception of a talent gap. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can go down to the local Volvo dealership. We could drive.
Exactly.
We could drive there now and take a selfie for him. Oh, this place is amazing. Come on in. Yeah, you're good, you're good. Geraldine, I'm so happy to be here with you. I've had a wonderful time driving around with you and learning a little bit about where we are here in Zimbabwe. And now I would love to focus on you and what you do. Would you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So I'm the managing partner and founder of Darena Ventures. Mm-hmm. Darena Ventures is a startup advisory firm that works with startups in sub-Saharan Africa, businesses that are environmentally friendly and sustainable, and providing services or products to consumers that reduce the effects of climate change. We provide mentorship to grow their businesses, to become investment ready. In some cases, we are working with startups that are in the informal sector, and we help them to formalize their businesses. In some cases, we are just working with startups that are looking to grow, and we help them to grow their businesses.
One of the reasons that I wanted to interview you was because of your focus on environmental sustainability and supporting African entrepreneurs. And you have made some really big, bold goals.
One of the SDG goals is to eradicate poverty by 2030. And one way that I see poverty can be eradicated on the African continent is by promoting entrepreneurship. I strongly feel that by promoting entrepreneurship, by having more locals establishing businesses, growing businesses, they actually can employ more people, and then through employment, higher incomes become a result, and with an increase in incomes, improvement of livelihoods, and inevitably poverty eradication.
You're making that link between education and entrepreneurship and the ways in which knowledge can be the tool that actually frees people from the prison of poverty versus a short-term solution like providing canned goods, like or the sorts of aid that you would see the Red Cross doing.
Yeah, that's very correct. We are very grateful for the aid that has come in the form of clothing, in the form of food. But even the donors themselves are acknowledging the fact that that has not been a sustainable way of ending poverty on the continent. You continue to feed a person, you continue to keep them dependent on you when all you're doing is providing them the goods and the services that they need. But when you promote and advance economic development and things like entrepreneurship, then what it actually does is you are empowering these people to become self-sustainable, where they will not continue to look to you, the donor, for their sustenance, but they are actually able to also take care of other people. They become responsible for the future of their children, the future of their communities, and the sustenance of their communities.
Yeah, dealing with the root cause. What excites you in terms of the African entrepreneurs that you're meeting and talking to?
What excites me the most is the fact that the entrepreneurs that I have been meeting are cognizant of the fact that they have the power to solve the problems that they are facing. They don't have to look to the West to come and solve their problems. They believe in themselves.
Those are very motivating words. I heard a story recently about a female astronaut going to space. She was going for 3 days, and they provided her with 100 feminine hygiene products and asked her, will that be enough? If that's not a hysterical example of what can happen when someone who doesn't really have the lived experience of a problem is attempting to solve it without fully understanding it, things can go awry. Can you talk to me about what happens when the solutions for African economic issues are attempted by the West? Where do things go wrong?
We've had venture capital investors from the West, from the US, and investing in Africa. And now they're looking back at their investments 10 years later, and they're saying VC doesn't work in Africa. And my argument is the reason why it hasn't worked is because these are investors that came to invest in a market that they completely do not understand. Mm-hmm. They don't know how business operates in different African countries. And they came with their capital and ideas on how to add value to these businesses without an understanding of the local context. Mm-hmm. We've had a lot of promising entrepreneurs relocating, going to set up businesses in geographies where there is better funding for them. The ones that have stayed have really had a challenge because the benchmarks that are being used by the previous investors, which were not successful, are not good case studies. So they're being compared to businesses that have failed. So there has been a myriad of negative effects that have happened as a result of that.
What led you to become passionate about this space and get involved?
I feel very strongly in providing the skills that I have acquired through my more than 20 years work experience, sharing some of the knowledge and the skills that I have with entrepreneurs. I also really believe in connecting people by facilitating these connections between entrepreneurs that we support and advisors that could be in a completely different continent. They can be in the same continent but in a different country. I found it very beneficial and very helpful. You cannot operate as a silo. The internet has made it possible for us to connect and to learn from each other. So those are some of the reasons why I'm in this space.
And you have a vast international network.
I started off broadening my network in 2019 when I joined a UK-registered fully remote company. And then I moved on to work for another Canadian company that is a startup accelerator. We're also a fully remote team. And the beauty of these two organizations, the team members were based all over the world. So it gave me a lot of exposure to what life is like in other countries, what working in other countries is like, and what people from different backgrounds have to offer to each other. And then the beauty of it all was how these people with diverse backgrounds could actually work together for a common cause, for a common good. I then went on to set up Darena Ventures, the startup advisory firm that also invests in entrepreneurs. And what that did for me is it allowed me to network with investors and startup ecosystem enablers from all over the world. So that's kind of how I've built my large network.
What are the most common misconceptions that you come across from the wider world when you talk about what you do as an entrepreneur in Zimbabwean climate tech?
There is a general misconception about how educated our people are, the kind of skills that they possess, whether they're capable of actually setting up businesses and growing businesses. I just share the truth. I tell them about what reality really is, how educated our people are, how very innovative and hardworking and industrious our people are. I set up a business in 2010 in the energy sector in Zimbabwe and managed to turn over more than $1 million in my first year of operation. So usually when I share that story, people get surprised, but I'm just an example of the many other people in Zimbabwe who are actually doing great things.
For a lot of people, I think the first time that they really let their imagination run wild with the idea of a futuristic vision of Africa is the movie Black Panther with lasers and force fields and things. But I'm curious to know, what do you hope the future of Africa, and specifically Zimbabwe, looks like, say, 20, 30 years from now?
I desire an Africa, a Zimbabwe, where our people can have the freedom to work from here and to work for an international company without relocating, without leaving their country, where the locals can provide employment for their own people. I envision and really desire to have a situation where even local entrepreneurs, local innovators can actually be the solution providers on the continent.
So someone who's watching this, who's going, oh my goodness, Geraldine, you're the person I've been looking for. I want Darena to help incubate my big idea. What's your message for them?
Get in touch and we can see how we can rope you into some of the programs that we've lined up for the year, but also reach out to other similar organizations like ourselves. We strongly believe here in Africa that you never stop learning. In fact, there's a way we say it in Shona, Kudzidza Hakuperi, which just means you don't stop learning.
Can you teach me how to say it?
Kudzidza Hakuperi.
Hakuperi.
Yes.
Kudzidza Hakuperi.
Yes.
Never stop learning.
Yes.
I love that. I'm going to give you a high five for that. Geraldine, I've had the best time hanging out with you, chatting about the impressive work that you're doing and the beautiful country that you get to call home. I just want to thank you again for taking the time to share your pearls of wisdom with the out-of-office community. Before we say goodbye, is there anything else that you would like to say to our audience?
Well, first to you, thank you very much for having me on the show. And to the audience, the sky is the limit. Believe in yourself. Whatever your vision, whatever your dream is, go after it. It's doable. You can do it.